The rain-slicked streets of Brooklyn gleamed under the sodium lamps like shattered promises, and I lay face down on the worn leather table, my back exposed, trusting him more than I'd ever trusted anyone. John's hands, calloused from years of bartending and the occasional failed guitar gig, moved with a tenderness that had always been his secret weapon, until they didn't. In that suspended moment, as his fingers lingered too long on the curve of my hip, the world cracked open, and the man I loved became a stranger, his breath hot against my ear whispering, "You know you want this," while my heart screamed for the door. I remember the exact shade of the candle flickering on the nightstand. Amber, like the whiskey we'd shared earlier that night, the kind that burns going down but leaves you numb after. It was our 3rd anniversary, or close enough. We'd stopped counting after the first year when life in New York started chipping away at the edges of romance like acid rain on a rooftop. John and I had met in the chaos of a Bushwick dive bar, the kind where the beer is cheap and the dreams are cheaper. He was slinging drinks with that crooked smile, the one that crinkled his blue eyes and made you forget the rent was due. I was Matthew, 27, a graphic designer scraping by on freelance gigs for indie bands and coffee shops that paid in exposure. One spilled IPA later, and we were laughing over shared cigarettes outside, the summer humidity wrapping around us like a promise neither of us believed in. That night, 3 years on, we'd holed up in our cramped one-bedroom in Bed-Stuy, the walls thin enough to hear the neighbors arguing about whose turn it was to walk the dog. John had insisted on the massage. "You've been hunched over that laptop like a gargoyle, babe," he'd said, his voice that low rumble that always made my knees weak. "Let me take care of you for once." There was something in his eyes then, a flicker I mistook for love. Tired, maybe, from double shifts at the bar, but earnest. We'd been drifting lately. My gigs were drying up. His band had imploded after the lead singer ghosted for LA. Arguments simmered like leftover takeout, reheated and bitter. But sex had always been our glue, a language we spoke when words failed. So I stripped down, the cool air raising goosebumps on my skin, and let him lead me to the table we'd shoved against the fire escape window. His hands started innocently enough, kneading the knots in my shoulders with that practiced ease he'd picked up from YouTube videos and too many hungover mornings. Eucalyptus oil slicked the air sharp and cleansing, and for a while it was good. I closed my eyes, let the tension bleed out, imagined us back in those early days. Stolen weekends in the Catskills, where we'd hike until our legs gave out and collapse into each other under star-pricked skies. John whispered nonsense. How my freckles mapped constellations only he could read. How he'd burn the city down if anyone hurt me. Lies maybe even then, but beautiful ones. The shift was subtle at first, his thumbs pressing deeper into the small of my back, tracing the dimples above my hips with a reverence that bordered on possession. I tensed, but chalked it up to the intimacy, the way lovers explore boundaries in the dark. Then his palms slid lower, deliberate, cupping the swell of my ass. Not playful, not teasing, but insistent, fingers digging in like he was claiming territory. "John?" I murmured, half laughing to break the spell. "That's not exactly a knot." His response was a chuckle, warm breath on my neck, but it didn't match the pressure of his grip. When he leaned in, his body weight pinning me, and his lips brushed my ear with that line, "You know you want this." The laughter died in my throat. Panic bloomed cold and sharp in my chest, a fist around my lungs. This wasn't us. Our touches had always been mutual, a dance of equals, not this one-sided demand. I twisted, trying to sit up, but his hand flattened between my shoulder blades, not hard enough to bruise but firm enough to hold. "Relax, Matt," he said, voice husky, edged with something impatient. "I'm just messing around." But he wasn't. His other hand ventured further, crossing into spaces that screamed no, even as my body froze in betrayal. The candle flame danced mockingly, casting shadows that twisted his face into something unrecognizable. A stranger wearing my lover's skin. I bucked then, shoving him off with elbows and heels, scrambling for the sheet to cover myself. "What the fuck, John?" The words tore out ragged, laced with disbelief. He stumbled back, hands up like I'd pulled a gun. his eyes wide with feigned innocence. Whoa. Babe, I was just… Come on. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. As if I'd imagined the violation, the way his touch had turned predatory in the span of a heartbeat. Rain hammered the window like applause for my unraveling, and I backed toward the door, heart thundering, every nerve alight with the urge to flee. We didn't speak after that. Not really. He crashed on the couch, mumbling apologies through the wall that sounded more like excuses. Stress. Too much booze. I thought you were into it. I curled under the covers, body aching not from the massage but from the fracture in my soul. Tears soaking the pillow until dawn grayed the sky. By morning, the apartment reeked of regret, coffee brewing like a truce neither wanted. John slid a mug across the counter, his smile tentative. Last night was fucked up. I got carried away. Forgive me, and God help me, I wanted to, because loving him had been my anchor in this relentless city, the one constant amid evictions and additions that went nowhere. So I nodded, swallowed the bitterness, and pretended the line hadn't been crossed. Erased it like a bad sketch on my drafting table. But lines like that don't erase. They fester, invisible ink burning under skin. Weeks blurred into a fragile normalcy. Brunches in Prospect Park where we'd feed each other bagel bites and whisper about escaping to Portland. His fingers lacing mine under the table as if nothing had changed. Yet everything had. I'd flinch at his touch now, casual brushes on the arms sparking flashbacks to that night. The weight of him, the violation disguised as affection. Sex became a minefield, initiated only on his terms. My yes hollow echoes to avoid the no that might shatter us. Friends noticed, of course. Our buddy Alex from the bar circuit pulled me aside one night at a queer open mic in the village. You look like hell, Matt. What's eating you? I shrugged it off, work, the usual grind, but his eyes lingered, skeptical. John buried it deeper, throwing himself into late shifts and impromptu jam sessions that kept him out till 3 a.m. When he was home, he'd pull me close with that old charisma, murmuring how I was his everything, how we'd beat this city together. Part of me clung to it, the romantic in me scripting our redemption arc like one of those indie films we binged on rainy Sundays. But the artist in me knew better. Sketches don't lie, and the portrait of us was smudged, irreparably. It was during one of those forced intimacies a week after the massage that the first real crack showed. We'd tumbled into bed after a rooftop party, the skyline glittering like fool's gold, his kisses tasting of craft IPAs and desperation. I went along, body on autopilot, until his hands mirrored that night, greedy, unyielding. Stop, I gasped, pushing him away. He froze, propped on elbows, face crumpling. Again? Matt, what's your deal? My deal. As if my boundaries were the problem. Words tumbled out then, accusatory and raw. You crossed a line that night. You didn't listen. His denial was swift, a blade. I was your boyfriend. It's not like I forced you. Not forced. The phrase echoed, minimizing, gaslighting me into silence once more. I left the bed that night, slept on the fire escape with a blanket and the city's hum as my only comfort. Dawn brought clarity, cold and unforgiving. This wasn't love. It was possession, wrapped in nostalgia. But walking away, in a city that chewed up dreams and spat out husks, where queer kids like me fought for every scrap of belonging, felt like amputation. Still, the seed of recovery planted itself then, tentative roots in the concrete of my resolve. The autumn leaves in Central Park turned the paths into veins of fire, and I walked them alone more often now, John's texts lighting up my phone like unanswered prayers. Miss you, babe. Dinner tonight. I'd reply with deflections, deadlines, headaches, buying time to untangle the knot he'd tied around my heart. Therapy wasn't an option. Copays ate into my irregular checks, and spilling to a stranger felt like exposing a fresh wound to salt air. Instead, I turned to the only canvas I trusted. My sketchbook, pages filling with jagged lines that bled into faces. His, mine, distorted hybrids of trust and betrayal. Our mutual friend Sarah caught wind first. She was the glue of our little queer circle, a drag queen by night and barista by day, with a wit sharp enough to cut glass. Over lattes at her spot in Williamsburg, she fixed me with those coal-lined eyes. "Spill, Matthew. You and John are giving off radioactive vibes." I hesitated, the words sticking like tar, but her hand on mine, steady, non-judgmental, coaxed them free. The massage, the line crossed, the denial. Her face hardened, not with pity, but fury on my behalf. "That's assault, honey. Boyfriend or not, consent is king." Assault. The word landed like a stone in still water, ripples disturbing the denial I'd built. She hugged me after, fierce and floral-scented, promising, "You're not alone. We'll figure this." Emboldened, I confronted John that weekend. He'd planned a surprise, picnic in the park, cheese and crackers from that overpriced deli on Atlantic Avenue, the kind of gesture that used to melt me. We sat on a bench overlooking the reservoir, ducks quacking indifferently, and I laid it out. The fear, the flashbacks, how his just messing had shattered something sacred. His response was a masterclass in deflection. Eyes downcast, voice cracking with rehearsed remorse. "I swear, Matt, it was a mistake. I love you too much to hurt you. Too much." The irony twisted like a knife. We cried then, him begging forgiveness, me grasping for the man I'd fallen for. Not this shadow. By sunset, we'd vowed counseling, free sessions at the LGBTQ Center in Chelsea, a lifeline I'd overlooked in my isolation. The sessions were a revelation or a reckoning. Our therapist, Dr. Rivera, a no-nonsense Latina with a laugh like church bells, didn't coddle. "Boundaries aren't optional, John. Matthew's trauma is real, whether you intended it or not." John nodded, penitent, sharing his own scars. Abusive dad back in Ohio, the closet he'd clawed out of at 18. It humanized him, painted the predator in shades of gray, but didn't excuse. For me, it was excavation. Unearthing the patterns, how my people-pleasing stemmed from foster kid days, bouncing between homes that prized silence over screams. We held hands across the circle, tentative bridges over chasms, and for a month it felt like salvage. Dates reignited, quiet dinners at hole-in-the-wall Takarius, where we'd talk dreams instead of damages. His touches gentled, always asking, "This okay?" And I'd nod, reclaiming my skin inch by inch. But romance is a fragile bloom in concrete cracks, and winter winds howled in. John's band reformed minus the flake, rehearsals stretching into all-nighters. I'd wait up, sketches piling like unanswered letters, anxiety gnawing at the what-ifs. One blizzard night, he stumbled in reeking of gin and guitar strings, collapsing beside me with slurred affections. "You're my rock, Matt. Don't ever leave." I held him, whispering back, but dawn brought the hangover truth. A hickey on his neck, faint but damning, from a post-gig hookup he'd forgotten to mention. Betrayal, round two, not physical this time, but emotional shrapnel. It meant nothing, he swore, tears streaming. Stress, the sessions. I panicked, as if my pain justified his wandering. The fight was cataclysmic, voices echoing off exposed brick until neighbors banged brooms on walls. I packed a bag, crashing at Sarah's couch in her glitter-strewn walk-up. "Stay as long as you need," she said, brewing chamomile and queuing up old rom-coms. Sleepless nights blurred into days of numb routine. Coffee runs, client calls, sketches that veered abstract. Swirls of blue and black, emotions without edges. John bombarded with voicemails, flowers at my door, even a playlist of our songs. Earnest pleas wrapped in nostalgia. Part of me ached for reconciliation, the romantic fool scripting montages of make-up sex and forever. But the humanist in me, forged in therapy's fire, recognized the cycle: violation, apology, relapse. Enter Alex, the wild card. He was John's old bandmate, lanky with a mop of curls and a laugh that disarmed defenses. We'd orbited each other in group hangs, but post-split, he texted, "Heard your solo. Beers. Neutral ground." A dimly lit pub in Greenpoint, where the taps flowed with IPAs and truths loosened by hops. Alex listened without judgment, sharing his own queer odyssey. coming out in a conservative upstate town, the ex who cheated with straight-passing lies. John's a mess, he admitted over second rounds. But you're gold, Matt. Don't let him tarnish you. Gold. The word warmed, a spark in the cold. By closing time, we'd exchanged numbers, promises of jam sessions. Me on keys, him on drums. Innocent harbors from the storm. Spring teased with crocuses pushing through sidewalks, and I bloomed tentatively. Freelance picked up. An album cover for a rising indie act, paying enough for my own sublet in Bushwick, sunlight slanting through windows like hesitant hope. John respected the space at first, check-ins evolving from desperate to supportive. Proud of you, babe. Kill that meeting. But proximity bred temptation. One evening, post-client pitch, he showed at my door with takeout from our spot, pad thai steaming, spring rolls crisp. Just friends? He asked, eyes hopeful. I let him in, the air thick with what-ifs. We ate cross-legged on the floor, laughing over old photos, the ease slipping back like a well-worn jacket. His hand found mine, thumb stroking knuckles, and for a heartbeat, I leaned in, forgiveness tasting like possibility. Then the line blurred again. His kiss deepened, urgent, hands roaming with familiar presumption. John, wait. I pulled back, heart racing. He froze, expression crumpling. I thought, we're good now, as if time erased consent's calculus. The air soured, and I stood, voice steady despite the quake. We're not until you get it, really get it. He left with apologies trailing, door clicking shut like a period on our sentence. Alone, I sank to the floor, sobs racking, but beneath the grief, a fierce clarity. Recovery wasn't reunion. It was rebirth. Sarah rallied the troops that week. A girls' night out minus the girls, just our crew at a karaoke dive in the East Village. Belting, I Will Survive off-key. Surrounded by cheers and cheap cosmos. I felt the weight lift. Laughter genuine for the first time in months. Alex joined midway, his grin lighting the booth, and we duet Tiny Dancer. Voices harmonizing in unexpected grace. Later, walking home under cherry blossoms shedding pink confetti, he bumped my shoulder. You're glowing, Matt. Glowing. Not gold, but alive, human, flawed, mending. Yet John lingered, a ghost in my periphery. A call from Dr. Rivera. He'd missed sessions, spiraling into bar fights and ghosted gigs. Guilt gnawed. Had I pushed too hard? But Sarah's words echoed. Your healing isn't his handcuff. Still, when he showed up disheveled at my sublet, rain-soaked and raw, begging one last talk, I opened the door. Not for love, but humanity. The boy from Ohio who'd once held me through nightmares, deserving a chance to face his demons. Summer heat baked the asphalt into mirages, and New York's pulse quickened to a fever, mirroring the turmoil I'd buried under busyness. My sublet became sanctuary, walls papered with mood boards of bolder designs, vibrant queer icons for a non-profit campaign, colors screaming visibility. John's plea that rainy night unfolded on my threadbare couch, his confessions spilling like overfilled mugs. The massage hadn't been isolated, echoes of his father's rage, a pattern of control masked as care. I see it now, he whispered, voice breaking. Therapy's kicking my ass, but for you, I'd burn it all. Vulnerability disarmed, that crooked smile peeking through tears, and I saw the man, not the monster, flawed, fighting. We didn't reconcile, not fully. Instead, a fragile détente. Coffee meetups as friends in progress. Boundaries etched in stone. He'd share session breakthroughs, learning to ask, not assume, and I'd nod, offering sketches of our better days, not as bait but bridges. Romance flickered, embers not flames. But in those moments, humanity prevailed. Two souls navigating wreckage toward wholeness. Alex became confidant, our jam sessions evolving into late-night confessions over vinyl in his loft. He was easy company, passionate about poetry slams, his touches platonic pats that grounded without demanding. You're healing loud, he'd say, and I'd laugh, the sound foreign but fitting. But betrayal's shadow lengthened. One sweltering August afternoon, mid-pitch for a gallery show, My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown. A photo, time-stamped last weekend, John entangled with a hookup at a bathhouse in Hell's Kitchen. Faceless, but unmistakable tattoo on his forearm. The anchor I'd inked during a drunken dare. Attached note. Thought you should know. Sorry. Anonymous mercy or malice. Heart plummeting. I confronted him at the bar. Closing shift be damned. He was wiping counters, sleeves rolled, when I slapped the printout down. Explain. His face drained of color. Excuses tumbling. Loneliness. Relapse. It wasn't you. It was me. Me. Always the pivot to absolution. Rage boiled, hot and unfiltered. You swore, John. After everything. The therapy, the promises. Patrons hushed, sensing drama. But I didn't care. This was my catharsis, public and unapologetic. He reached for me, pleading, give me another shot. I love. The word soured now, a currency debased. I wrenched away, voice steel. Love doesn't cross lines. It guards them. Storming out into the humid night, sirens wailing symphony to my shatter. I blocked his number, the finality a bomb. The fallout was seismic. Sarah hosted intervention. Wine and weep sessions where I purged the grief, journal pages filling with unsent letters. Fury at his betrayal, sorrow for the boy he'd been, pride in my survival. Alex stepped up, not as rebound but anchor. Walks along the high line at dusk, where we debate art versus life, his insights piercing my armor. Betrayal's a teacher. He'd muse, skyline twinkling below. It shows who stays. He stayed, through gallery openings where my work debuted. Abstracts of fractured hearts mending in rainbow shards. Critics calling it raw humanism. John faded to periphery. Mutuals whispering of his downward spiral. Rehab whispers. A city that devours the unmoored. Autumn returned. Leaves crunching underfoot like brittle memories. And with it, a tentative courtship. Not scripted romance, but organic spark. Alex invited me to a poetry reading in a Soho basement. Dim lights and dog-eared chapbooks. His hand brushing mine as verses wove tales of queer resilience. Afterward, over falafel in a hole in the wall, he admitted, I've been falling for the guy who's rising from ashes. No pressure, just truth, vulnerable, asked. I leaned in, our first kiss soft under street lamps, tasting of tahini and tomorrow. It wasn't fireworks, but hearth, warm, steady, consensual. John resurfaced then, clean-shaven and somber, cornering me post-reading. Heard about Alex. Happy for you. No venom, just hollow eyes. He was sober, piecing a new life. Counseling gig at the center, channeling pain into purpose. I get it now, Matt. The harm. I'm sorry, not for show, but deep. Apology landed differently this time, not hook but release. We hugged, brief and brotherly, parting as survivors, not lovers. Humanity's grace. Forgiveness without forgetting, space for both to heal. Yet drama loomed, Kismet's cruel twist. My gallery show gained buzz, a feature in a local queer mag, drawing crowds to the intimate space in Chelsea. John showed, uninvited but welcome, clapping from the back as I spoke of inspiration. The violation turned victory, silence shattered into art. Q&A turned confessional. A reporter probed the crossed line, and I spoke, voice steady. It was assault by someone I loved. Recovery meant owning my voice, not his regret. Gasps rippled. Flashes popped. John's face paling in the crowd. Post-event, he pulled me aside, trembling. You outed me. My job. Outed. The word stung, his shame not mine to carry. I shared my story, John. Yours is yours to tell. He stormed off, but not before murmuring, proud of you anyway. The article exploded online, shares cascading through queer networks, messages flooding. Your courage saved me. Validation washed over, but so did backlash. Trolls decrying cancel culture. John's anonymized pleas in comments. Alex held me through it. His loft a bunker of books and bass lines, where we'd craft manifestos over midnight tea. Romance deepened, not in grand gestures but quiet rituals. farmers' market Sundays, sketching each other in sunlight-dappled parks. He was the counterpoint to John's intensity, gentle explorer, mapping my boundaries with questions, not conquests. Winter whispered in with first snows, blanketing the city in hush, and our first holiday as us. Tree trimming in Alex's loft, ornaments from thrift dives, John's old band mug repurposed as cocoa cup. No ghosts, just presence. His head on my shoulder, murmuring poems he'd written, lines of longing turned love. But echoes lingered. A call from Dr. Rivera. John had relapsed. Bad. Overdose scare. Now inpatient. Guilt flickered, but Alex squeezed my hand. You can't save him from himself. Save you for us. The word rooted deep, a foundation unshakable. Crescendo built subtly, a storm gathering. My art career ascended, a solo exhibit planned for spring, themes of recovery resonating. John's discharge brought a letter, handwritten, raw. Admissions of patterns unbroken, gratitude for the mirror I'd held, a vow to vanish from my orbit. Closure, bittersweet. Yet fate scripted one last act. A mutual fundraiser for the center, unavoidable overlap. There, amid balloons and banners, we locked eyes across the room, him thinner, haunted. Me steadier, Alex's arm linked in mine. No words needed. A nod sufficed, truce eternal. As snow fell outside, confetti inside, I realized the arc. From violations void to this fullness, not perfect but profoundly human. Love reclaimed not as crutch but compass. The new year dawned crisp and unforgiving, resolutions scribbled on napkins amid confetti hangovers. But for me, it carried the weight of reinvention. Alex and I christened it with a road trip upstate. Nothing lavish, just a borrowed hatchback stuffed with snacks and playlists, heading to a cabin his aunt owned by a frozen lake. The drive was therapy on wheels. Highways unspooling like unknotted threads, his hand on my thigh a constant anchor. We talked everything. Fears of fading gigs for him, my imposter syndrome in the art world. Laughter punctuating silences, vulnerability the glue. At the cabin, wood smoke curling from the chimney, we built a fire and each other. Touches exploratory, always pausing for the sacred, yes, consent, woven into foreplay like lace, turned intimacy into art. Back in the city, momentum built. My exhibit prep consumed days. Canvases sprawling across my studio space, a converted warehouse corner in Dumbo, where Brooklyn Bridge views inspired strokes of steel and solace. Themes deepened, portraits of survivors, anonymous faces etched with resilience, titles like Silent No More echoing my manifesto. Alex collaborated, drumming soundscapes for the opening, beats pulsing like heartbeats reclaimed. John became footnote, a chapter closed, though ripples persisted. A forwarded email from the center, him volunteering as peer mentor, turning pain to purpose. Pride swelled, untainted by possession. Spring erupted in verdant fury, cherry blossoms carpeting sidewalks like pink rebellions, and my show, lines crossed, lines redrawn, drew lines out the door. Critics raved. Matthew Hale's work is a clarion call for queer healing, raw and redemptive. Sales funded a down payment on a shared place with Alex, a sunlit two-bedroom in Cobble Hill, fire escape herb garden and all. Move-in day was montage material. Boxes labeled with inside jokes, his poetry taped to walls, my sketches framing mirrors. That night, unpacking wine and weariness, he proposed. Not ring, but ritual. Build this with me? No lines uncrossed. Tears pricked. I nodded, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of forever's edge. But drama, that uninvited guest, crashed the idol. A journalist from the mag that broke my story dug deeper, unearthing John's name through careless whispers. The follow-up piece painted him as villain, quotes twisted from anonymous sources, igniting online inferno. Threats flew. His job teetered. Family back home disowned him anew. Panic call at 2 a.m. Matt, they know. Help. Heart clenched, betrayer turned victim, cycle spinning. I met him at a neutral diner in Midtown, fluorescent hum underscoring his hollow cheeks. I didn't name you, I insisted, sliding coffee his way. He nodded, but eyes accused. Your truth dragged me under, as if my light dimmed his. The confrontation escalated, words weaponized, his resentment boiling into blame. If you'd stayed silent, like a good boyfriend, mine erupting in defense. Silence nearly killed me. Plates rattled, waitress hovering, until he deflated, sobbing into napkins. I'm losing everything. Humanity surged, unbidden. I drove him home, to a sublet sagging with solitude, and stayed till dawn, not as lover, but witness. Fight for you, I urged, echoing words he'd once fed me. He gripped my hand, fleeting, then released. Go, be happy. Parting held no romance, only respect. Two men, scarred but standing. Aftermath stirred growth. Alex and I attended couples workshops at the center, not from fracture but fortification, learning languages of lasting love. My art evolved, incorporating his influences, poetic overlays on portraits, exhibits touring to San Francisco's Castro, where queer history hummed in every corner. John stabilized. A quiet text months later. Exhibit pics? Rooting for you. No strings, just solidarity. Betrayal's sting faded to scar. Tender but testament. Summer solstice brought peak. Our commitment ceremony. Backyard affair in Alex's aunt's garden. Wildflowers and witnesses. Sarah officiating in sequins, vowing us through laughter and libations. No vows exchanged, just promises whispered. To ask, to listen, to love without lines. As sun dipped, casting golden halos, I danced with him under string lights, body light, soul lighter. Yet introspection lingered, recovery's path not linear, but labyrinthine, turns revealing more of self. Fall whispers returned, equinox balancing light and dark, and with it, a curveball, John's engagement announcement, to a bar regular he'd mentored through recovery. Shock rippled, jealousy? No, relief laced with ache, closure's final punctuation. I toasted privately, sketch of anchors untethered, freedom's gift. Alex noticed, pulling me close. All of it led here, mornings tangled in sheets, evenings debating manifestos over takeout, a life co-authored. Crescendo crested subtly, a national award nod for my series, panel invites on consent in queer spaces. Speaking gigs honed my voice. Stories of violations void, recovery's radiance, humanity's harness. Audiences leaned in, mirrors to my mending, and in Q&As, I'd credit the broken. Even betrayers teach if we listen to the lesson. John attended one, incognito in the back, clapping silent when I finished. Post-talk, a nod across the lobby, acquaintances, allies. As leaves turned, Alex and I plotted escape. A cross-country drive come winter, chasing sunsets from canyons to coasts. Plans sketched on diner placemats, dreams deferred no more. Romance, matured, bloomed in details. His notes in my lunch, my playlists for his shifts. No pedestals, just partnership equal, enduring. Yet the arc arched higher, fates flourish. A documentary pitch. My story is thread in a tapestry of survivor tales. Filming commenced in lofts and parks, raw interviews unspooling pain to power. John consented to cameo. Brief, blurred, his voice modulated. I was the line crosser. Their forgiveness freed me. Catharsis collective, wounds woven into wisdom. Winter's eve, snow veiling the bridge. Alex and I toasted from our fire escape. To lines redrawn, glasses clinked, stars pricking velvet sky. And in that hush, I knew. Recovery wasn't endpoint, but ever unfolding. From Massage's betrayal to this balcony bliss, I'd chosen voice over void, love over loss. Human, holy. The documentary's grind turned our loft into a makeshift green screen, cables snaking like veins across hardwood, capturing not just my narrative but the mosaic of voices. Survivors from Harlem alleys to Hollywood hills, each thread a testament to tenacity. Alex thrived in the chaos, scoring interstitials with acoustic swells that evoked urban elegies. His presence a steady bass line to my soaring solos. Interviews peeled layers. Reliving the massage's moment, breath catching on the word, no. But now framed in triumph, the choice to speak a superpower unearthed. Director Lena, a butch firebrand with tattoos mapping her own battles, nodded fiercely. This isn't victim porn. It's victory lap. John's clip, filmed in a sterile studio uptown, arrived as raw footage. Him fidgeting under lights, words halting but honest. I thought love meant ownership. It doesn't. It means release. Watching alone one midnight, tears traced familiar paths. Not grief, but grace. I texted him coordinates for a neutral park bench, neutral ground under autumn's bare branches. He arrived bundled in wool, coffee steaming in paper cups, the city exhaling frost. Saw the cut, he said, no preamble. You're making waves. Waves. I'd become the tide, pulling others ashore. We walked, leaves crunching confessions. His therapy marathon, the fiancé's steadying hand, a life rebuilt brick by sober brick. You saved me, Matt, by not saving me. Irony smiled, and I echoed, we saved each other, from silence. Betrayal's ghost, once hulking, now hovered translucent, lessons luminous. Back home, Alex sensed the shift, drawing me into a waltz sans music. Spill your soul, over shared soup. His grandma's recipe, matzo balls floating like buoys. I unpacked the meetup, fears of backsliding voiced. He listened, then quipped, ghosts don't haunt if you light the room. Light our love's lantern, flickering against shadows. That night, intimacy unfolded languid, his whispers cartography of care. Here? Here. Yes, cascaded. Body a map remapped. Pleasure not plunder. Spring's exhibit tour whisked us westward. Panels in Portland's Pearl District, where rain-misted streets mirrored my mending moods. Audiences swelled. Queer youth with eyes wide as saucers, elders nodding sagely, questions probing. How do you trust again? My answer honed. Trust yourself first. The rest follows or it doesn't, your call. Alex drummed side gigs, beats syncing with my beats, our duo an act unto itself. In a Boise motel, post-talk, he proposed proper. Ring simple, silver band etched with redrawn. On one knee amid takeout wrappers. Laughter bubbled. Yes, tumbling free, sealing us in sunset glow. Return to New York brought bustle. Wedding plans modest, rooftop vows with city as chapel. Sarah as efficient wielding wit like a wand. Invites extended inclusively. John and partner on the list, no drama anticipated. Rehearsal dinner hummed with harmony. Toasts to resilience, dances to old soul. John cornered me by the bar. Champagne flutes clinking. Congrats. Deserve this. His fiancée, warm-eyed, squeezed my arm. He's better for it, for you. No jealousy, just joy borrowed. Humanity's high wire. Balance without bitterness. Yet conflict crested unbidden. A tabloid twist. The doc's trailer leaking early, sensationalizing queer betrayal bombshell. Headlines screamed John's name, dredging dirt. Past arrests glossed as troubled. My assault minimized to lover's quarrel. Backlash surged. Protests at screenings. Emails venomous. Attention seeker. Isolation clawed. Old silences siren singing. Alex fortified. Their noise, not our narrative. But doubt gnawed. A call from Lena. Pull the project? No, defiance my doctrine. Crescendo crashed at a preview gala in Tribeca. Lights low. Seats packed with allies and adversaries. Midway, a heckler rose. John's estranged brother, face twisted in familial fury. Lies! My brother's no monster. Chaos erupted, security swarming. But I stood, mic in hand. He's not a monster. He's human, like me, like you. Hurt people hurt, healed people help. This film's bridge, not bonfire. Silence fell. Then applause thundered. The brother slinking out shamed. Post-screening, John texted. Saw the stream. You slayed my dragons. Thank you. Dragons slain, indeed. Summer simmered resolutions. Wedding day dawned balmy. Rooftop awash in wildflowers and whispers. Vows exchanged under arbor mine. You taught me love asks, never assumes. I choose you, every line redrawn. His, your strength's my song. I'll harmonize always. Rings slid on, kisses sealed. Cheers erupted as skyline saluted. Reception flowed. Sarah's roast, Alex's drum circle, dances till dawn. John danced once, distant but delighted. A chapter toasted closed. Fall's harvest brought harvest. Doc premiered to acclaim. Emmys whispered. My book deal inked. Lines of light. A queer recovery. Tours beckoned. Alex touring tandem. Our life a duet. John's wedding followed. Quiet affair we skipped gracefully. Card sent with sketch. 2 anchors, linked yet free. Winter wrapped us in woolen warmth. First anniversary cabin bound. Lake thawed to mirror our thaw. Fireside, he read new poems. Odes to our odyssey. Lines lush with love. Reflection came unbidden. From Brooklyn betrayal to this fireside fidelity. The arc was mine. Not to unfurl, silence to symphony. Humanity, not happenstance. Choices chained to change. Yet epilogue echoed. A letter from the Heckler brother. Post-viewing. Watched. Understood. Sorry. Bridges built, one plank at time. With Alex dozing beside, I sketched the scene. Us, entwined, city distant dream. Recovery, not end, but eternal, lines forever redrawn. The Emmy buzz crescendoed into ceremony season. New York's glitterati descending like benevolent locusts, but we navigated with grounded grace. Tuxes thrifted, after parties at dive bars where authenticity trumped acclaim. My win for the doc, outstanding short-form nonfiction, felt less trophy than talisman, speech a staccato of gratitude. To those who crossed lines, thank you for the lesson. To those who walked beside, you're the light. Alex hooped from wings, his pride palpable. Our post-win diner feast. Fries and shakes. Truer than any gala. Book tour launched autumnal. Coasts connected by Amtrak's rhythmic rock. Readings in indie shops from Seattle's fog to Miami's heat. Alex opened sets with spoken word hybrids. Our synergy electric. Fans queuing for dual signatures. Keep redrawing. Letters poured. Survivors scripting their sequels. John's updates sporadic but sincere. Fiancé expecting. A family forged from fragments. Your words helped. One email read. Ripples relentless. Winter's hush heralded homecoming. Loft expanded with nursery nooks. Not ours yet but dreamed. Adoption whispers amid baby books. Alex's proposal evolution, vows renewed yearly. Rings rotated like seasons. Romance ripened. Surprise sketches in his kit. Drum lessons turning to duets. No monotony, just maturity. Love's quiet roar. Spring's renewal birthed bold. Co-authored exhibit. Harmonies and healing. Fusing my visuals with his scores. Touring museums that mattered. Opening in DC's Smithsonian Outpost drew dignitaries. But our circle stole show. Sarah emceeing. John toasting from afar via video. To lines that lead to light. No awkwardness, just evolution. Conflict's final flare. A reunion invite from Dr. Rivera. Group session for alumni. Hesitant. We attended. Circle of faces familiar. Scars softened. Sharing rounds unearthed updates. John's fatherhood joys, my authorship arcs. When my turn came, words flowed. Betrayal broke me open to better. John's eyes met mine, gnawed of shared survival. Closure? Not word, but warmth. Humanity's hearth. Summer solstice circled back. Anniversary hike in the Catskills. Echoes of early John days. But now with Alex's hand in mine, trails trod tandem. Summit views vast. Vows whispered to winds. From fracture to full. Descent danced with laughter. Picnic unpacked under pines. Fall's palette painted patina on our path. Book sequel outlined. Voices unsilenced. Anthologizing others' arcs. Alex's album dropped. Tracks threaded with our tale. Chart whispers turning to tours. John's sonogram shared. Tiny heartbeat, miracle mended. Winter's eve. Fire escape vigil. Snowflakes scripting secrets, city symphony soft. Alex beside, poem in progress. In lines recrossed, we found the map. I added verse, our co-creation. Reflection crested. From Massage's midnight maelstrom to this midnight muse, I'd chosen. Recovery's radical act, silence slain. Epilogue etched in embers. Years hence, graying at temples, we'd recount to godkids. Adopted brood with boundless brows. Tales tempered true. Love's not linear, it's learned. John, uncle by choice, barbecues in backyards, his family fractal of ours. Betrayals? Backstory, not burden. In humanity's vast canvas, lines crossed forge masterpieces. Raw, redemptive, ours.